The first time Brianna Mercer asked me to take her home, she did it into a karaoke microphone in front of 14 coworkers, 2 drunk accountants, and my business partner's wife, who immediately dropped a nacho back onto her plate like she'd just witnessed a felony. To be clear, she didn't say it. She sang it, and she sang it while looking straight at me. I was 24 years old, which meant I was just old enough to be in charge of payroll, vendor contracts, and pretending I knew what I was doing, but apparently not old enough to survive my secretary choosing a duet called Last Train to Georgia and changing the last line to, "Take me home with you." The whole bar went quiet for half a second. Then somebody from accounting yelled, "Cole, answer the woman." My name is Cole Bennett. At the time, I was running a small commercial design office in Columbus with my college friend, Marcus Reed. We made packaging for local food brands, labels for salsa jars, brewery cans, coffee bags, bakery boxes. Not glamorous, unless you consider arguing over font weight at 9:30 in the morning glamorous. Brianna was our front office secretary, though she hated that word. "I am not your secretary," she told me on her third day, standing in my doorway with a stack of invoices tucked under one arm. "I am the reason your clients think this place has adult supervision." She was 27, sharp as a thumbtack, and had this way of looking at people like she'd already solved the puzzle and was waiting politely for them to catch up. She wore fitted blazers, soft blouses, narrow gold hoops, and an expression that made vendors apologize before they even knew what they'd done wrong. I noticed her. Of course I noticed her. I noticed the way she hummed old soul songs when the printer jammed. I noticed that she kept emergency safety pins in an Altoids tin because, as she once said, men in creative fields have a dangerous relationship with buttons. I noticed that when I got nervous before client pitches, she never told me to calm down. She just slid the correct folder into my hand and said, "You already know this room. Walk in like you paid rent there." That kind of thing gets under a man's skin. But she worked for me, and I was young enough that everyone in the room was always looking for proof that I didn't deserve the chair I sat in. Dating the woman who ran my calendar, corrected my contracts, and reminded me to eat lunch would have been exactly the kind of proof people like to whisper about. So I kept my mouth shut. Mostly. Brianna didn't make that easy. She had a talent for saying things that sounded ordinary until 2 minutes later, when your brain caught fire. Once she stood over my desk while I was trying to fix a mock-up that looked like a raccoon had designed it during a tax audit. "You're squinting," she said. "I'm concentrating." "No. Concentrating makes your forehead do the little crease thing. Squinting means you hate it." I looked up. "You've cataloged my forehead?" "I work in administration. We notice warning signs." "Anything else in the report?" Her eyes dropped to my mouth for just long enough to be reckless, then came back up. "Plenty," she said, and walked away. That was Brianna. She could knock the air out of my lungs and still leave me wondering if I'd imagined it. The karaoke night was Marcus's idea. We'd survived a brutal product launch for a local hot sauce company, and he declared that everyone needed team bonding that does not involve Pantone codes. So on a Friday evening in May, while the sun was still low and gold outside the windows, we took over the back corner of a bar called the Brass Rail. Nothing dramatic, no storm, no midnight secrets. Just a sticky table, paper baskets of fries, bad lighting, and people from work acting like they had never been given access to microphones before. Brianna arrived late wearing dark jeans, black ankle boots, and a burgundy blouse that made her look like trouble had finally gotten organized. Her hair was down, which was rare, soft waves brushing her shoulders. She carried her purse in one hand and a paper bag from the bakery downstairs in the other. She set the bag in front of me. "For you," she said. I peeked inside. A cherry turnover. I blinked. "What's this for?" "You skipped lunch." That was 6 hours ago. And yet somehow still annoying. I smiled before I could stop myself. "You keeping track of me, Mercer?" She leaned close enough that I caught the faint scent of vanilla and something warmer, like cinnamon. "Somebody has to. You once tried to eat a protein bar that expired during the Obama administration. That bar had character. That bar had a legal team." I laughed, and she smiled like she'd been waiting for it. That was the dangerous part, not her beauty, though she was beautiful. Not the way men turned their heads when she crossed a room. It was how she made ordinary moments feel like there was a second conversation happening underneath the first one. A quieter one. A braver one. By 8 o'clock, Marcus had already performed Sweet Caroline with the confidence of a man who should never be encouraged. Our junior designer Fallon sang a breakup ballad so dramatic that the bartender applauded with both hands. I was nursing one beer and trying to look invisible. Then Brianna walked to the karaoke machine. Marcus clapped. Yes, Mercer, finally! She scrolled through the song list, lips pressed together, eyes bright with mischief. I knew that look. That look meant someone was about to pay for underestimating her. She turned to me and held out the second microphone. I shook my head immediately. Absolutely not. Oh, come on, Mr. Bennett. Nobody at work called me Mr. Bennett unless they were mocking me or asking for money. I don't sing, I said. You talk through entire client meetings with strangers who wear loafers without socks. You can survive 3 minutes with me. With you is the dangerous part. Her smile changed, just a little. The room got louder around us, but something between us got very still. Is it? She asked. I should have laughed it off. Instead, I stood, because apparently I had spent 10 months building a company, earning respect, managing risk, and learning absolutely nothing about self-preservation. The song started with a slow guitar line, some old country soul thing I vaguely recognized from my mother's kitchen radio. Brianna swayed beside me, not performing exactly, just settling into the rhythm like she had known the song longer than she'd known herself. Then she sang, and the bar disappeared. Her voice was lower than I expected, smoky and steady, the kind of voice that didn't ask for attention because it already had it. I almost missed my first line. She nudged my shoe with hers. Your turn, boss, she murmured, away from the mic. I came in late badly. She grinned. We traded lines. She teased me with her eyes every time I found the wrong note. I relaxed, not much, but enough. When the chorus came, she stepped closer so we could share the little screen glowing with lyrics. Our shoulders touched. It was nothing. It was everything. Her sleeve brushed my arm, and my brain stopped caring about rhythm, pitch, dignity, or the 14 witnesses pretending not to stare. Near the last verse, the lyrics on the screen said, Don't leave me lonely tonight. Brianna didn't sing that. She looked right at me, soft and unblinking, and sang, Take me home with you. The room erupted, whistles, laughter. Marcus nearly fell out of his chair. Fallon covered her mouth with both hands. Someone slapped the table like we were at a wedding reception and the bride had just thrown the bouquet directly into my chest. But Brianna didn't laugh. That was what knocked the smile off my face. She lowered the microphone. Her cheeks were pink, but her eyes were serious, not embarrassed, not drunk, not joking. For one long second, I saw the woman behind all the clever lines and perfect schedules and calm competence. I saw hope. Fear, too, but mostly hope. Then she handed the microphone back to the stand, grabbed her purse from the chair, and walked toward the side exit. I followed before I had a plan. Outside, the air was warm, and the sky still held the last blue of evening. Brianna stood near the brick wall beside the alley, one hand pressed to her stomach like she was trying to hold herself together. Brianna, I said. She turned. I shouldn't have done that, she said quickly. I know exactly how bad that looked. I don't care how it looked. You should. Probably. That almost made her smile. I took one step closer, then stopped. Not because I didn't want to close the distance. Because I wanted her to see that I could want her and still respect the space between us. Her eyes searched my face. You followed me, she said. Yeah. Because you're my boss? No. The word came out too honest. Her breath caught. I looked back through the window at our coworkers pretending they weren't watching us through neon beer signs and fingerprints on glass. Then I looked at her again. Did you mean it? I asked. Brianna's fingers tightened around the strap of her purse, and after 10 months of making me guess, she finally said, I meant it before I sang it. For a second, I forgot how to be 24 or a boss or a man with a business partner and employees 10 feet away pretending not to fog up the glass. I just stood there with Brianna Mercer's confession hanging between us like a lit match. You meant it before you sang it? I repeated. She gave a small, nervous laugh. That was the part you decided to repeat? I'm trying to make sure my brain didn't add it for personal reasons. Your brain has personal reasons? When it comes to you, I said. Unfortunately, yes. Her face changed again, softer, less guarded. That was the first time I'd said anything that close to the truth, and we both knew it. Inside the bar, Marcus's silhouette leaned toward the window. His wife pulled him back by the collar. Brianna noticed and sighed. We are going to be office folklore by Monday. We were halfway there when you rhymed home with you in front of accounting. That was artistic improvisation. That was a felony in 3 states. She laughed and the sound loosened something in my chest. Then she looked down at the sidewalk. Cole, I didn't plan it. I know. You don't know that. I know you. You plan everything. If you'd planned it, there would have been a backup microphone, a witness list, and probably a printed agenda. Her mouth twitched. There may have been a song shortlist. There it is. But not that line. She swallowed. That line got away from me. The tenderness in her voice almost ruined me. I leaned back against the brick wall, giving us both a little room to breathe. The side exit opened behind me and 2 women came out laughing, then saw our faces, and immediately became fascinated by the parking meters across the street. Brianna waited until they passed. You should go back in, she said. Do you want me to? No. There it was again. Plain, brave, not easy. I looked at her burgundy blouse, the way her sleeve had slipped slightly at her wrist, the thin scar near her thumb from a kitchen accident she'd once blamed on a lemon and a poor attitude. I remembered details about her I had no business keeping. How she wrote urgent notes on blue sticky pads because yellow ones made her think of warning signs. How she hated the word networking, but could charm an entire vendor meeting by asking one precise question. How she never sang at the office, only hummed when she thought no one could hear. You scare me a little, I admitted. Her eyebrows lifted. Good scare or tax audit scare? Good scare. That is not a category. It is now. She folded her arms, but it wasn't defensive, more like she needed something to do with her hands. You're my boss. I know. I'm older than you. By 3 years, not a geological era. I signed for your packages. Romantic obstacle of our time. Cole. The way she said my name stopped the jokes. I nodded. I know, I really do. A car rolled past slowly, bass thumping from the windows. The sky had gone from blue to purple, and the neon sign above the bar painted her cheek red, then blue, then red again. I can't be careless with you, I said. Her eyes stayed on mine. Is that what you think this is? Careless? No. I shook my head. That's the problem. She took half a step closer. Not much, but enough that I could feel the decision in it. I have spent 10 months watching you try so hard to be taken seriously, she said. And I know people underestimate you because of your age. I know Marcus talks louder in rooms so clients stop looking over your shoulder. I know you rehearse pitches when you think everyone has gone home. I know you keep your dad's old tape measure in your desk, even though we design labels and not houses. My throat tightened. Nobody knew about the tape measure. Or I thought nobody did. My father was a contractor, I said quietly. He died when I was 16. I know, she said. You mentioned him once when the window frame in the conference room stuck. You didn't make a big thing of it. But you touched that tape measure afterward like it was a hand on your shoulder. I looked away because the streetlights suddenly got blurry, and I was not going to cry outside a karaoke bar because my secretary had paid attention to me too well. My point, she said gently, is I don't see you as some kid pretending. I see you. That did it. Not the song. Not the line. That. I looked back at her, and I see you. Her breath shook. I see the woman who keeps a spare pair of flats under her desk but wears the boots anyway because you like feeling taller than difficult people. I see you pretending not to care when clients talk over you, then rewriting their whole schedule so they end up needing you. I see you eating the corner piece of every sheet cake because you think frosting should have structural integrity. She blinked, then laughed through something that looked dangerously close to tears. That is private information. I'm observant. You're ridiculous. I'm both. The side door opened again. Marcus stepped out, hands raised like he was approaching two nervous deer. "I come in peace." "Go away," I said. "Absolutely in a second." He glanced between us, and for once my loudest friend looked uncomfortable. "Just checking. People are starting to speculate." Brianna straightened. The warmth left her face. "Let them," I said. Marcus's eyes flicked to me. "Cole." I understood what he meant. Not as a warning exactly, more like a reminder. Payroll, HR forms, gossip, power dynamics, the ugly little world waiting to make something real look cheap. Brianna heard it too. She stepped back. That hurt more than I expected. "I'll call a ride," she said. "No," I said too fast. Both of them looked at me. I cleared my throat. "I mean, if you want to leave, I'll walk you to your car or wait with you. Not because I'm managing you, because I don't want this conversation to end with you alone on a curb pretending you're fine." Her expression softened despite herself. "I drove. Then I'll walk you to your car." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm going inside before I make this worse." "Too late," Brianna said. "Fair." He pointed at me. "Don't be an idiot." Then he pointed at her. "You either." When he disappeared inside, we stood there in the aftershock. Brianna glanced toward the parking lot behind the building. "You really want to walk me?" "Yes." "That's not very boss-like." "I'm off the clock." "Convenient." "Deeply." We started toward the lot, moving side by side under the warm glow of the street lamps. Not touching. Somehow that made every inch between our hands louder. Her car was parked under a maple tree, a silver hatchback with a little crack in the taillight. She unlocked it, but didn't get in. "I need to say something unromantic," she said. "Love that for us. If anything happens between us, I don't want to be the Office story. I don't want people thinking I flirted my way into being heard." My jaw tightened. They won't. They might. They'd be wrong. That doesn't always stop people. No, it didn't. I leaned one hand on the roof of her car, not trapping her, just needing somewhere to put my body before I did something reckless like touch her face. "Then we do it right," I said. Her eyes lifted. "Do what right?" The question was careful, but there was hope behind it again. "This," I said. "Whatever this is. We talked to Marcus. We put boundaries in place. You don't report directly to me anymore if we can help it. We don't hide like teenagers, and we don't turn the office into a circus." She stared at me. "What?" I asked. "I thought you were going to say we should forget it happened." "I'm not that noble." "No?" "No." My voice dropped. "I have thought about kissing you so many times I'm embarrassed by the number." The air changed. Brianna's lips parted slightly. I regretted nothing and everything. "How many?" she whispered. "That feels like a trap." "It's absolutely a trap." "Then a dignified amount." "Cole." "An undignified amount." She smiled, and it was beautiful, and I was in real trouble. Then she reached out and adjusted the collar of my shirt with 2 fingers, slow enough to make my pulse trip. It was such a small touch. Almost professional. Almost not. "You missed your second verse," she said. I was distracted. "By what?" "You know exactly what." Her fingers rested near my collarbone 1 second too long. Then the back door of the bar opened across the lot, and Fallon's voice drifted out loud and bright. "Oh no," she said. "They're standing by her car. That is definitely a chapter break." Brianna closed her eyes. "I may resign and become a lighthouse keeper." I laughed under my breath. But then my phone buzzed. Not a call. A text from Marcus. I looked down. "You need to come inside. Ron from Norick is here." He saw the song. He's asking if Brianna is available for reassignment before he renews the contract. My stomach dropped. Brianna saw my face. "What is it?" I locked the phone and looked toward the glowing bar windows, where business had just collided headfirst with something I was starting to realize I wanted more. "Our biggest client," I said, "just made you part of the negotiation." Brianna didn't flinch. That was one of the first things I learned about her in uncomfortable rooms. She might go quiet. She might get careful. But she did not shrink. What does that mean? She asked. I handed her my phone. She read Marcus's text and her mouth settled into a flat line. Not hurt first, anger first, clean, controlled anger. Ron Pritchard, she said. You know him? I've spoken to him on the phone 3 times. He calls me sweetheart when he wants something faster than our contract allows. My hand tightened around my keys. I can handle him. She looked at me sharply. I heard myself and winced. That came out wrong. Yes, it did. I don't mean handle him like you need rescuing. Good. I mean, I'm not letting a client treat you like a line item. Her expression softened a fraction. Better. The bar's side door opened again, and the noise spilled out. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. For a second, we just stood beside her car with the warm hood ticking softly under the maple tree. Then Brianna reached for my hand. Not dramatically. Not like a woman asking to be saved. More like a woman making a choice before walking into a room that had already decided what story to tell about her. Her fingers slid into mine. I looked down, stunned. She squeezed once. If we go in there, we go in as adults. Agreed. And if you start puffing up like a man in a cologne commercial, I will step on your foot. I respect that boundary. You should. We walked back toward the bar holding hands for exactly 7 steps. Then she let go before we reached the door. It made sense. It still felt like losing something. Inside, the mood had changed. People tried to act normal, which is the least normal thing a group of coworkers can do. The karaoke machine had been abandoned, and Marcus stood at our table with Ron Pritchard, owner of Norwick Foods, a square-jawed man in his late 40s who wore expensive jeans like he'd read about casual dressing in a hostage note. Ron turned when he saw us. There he is, he said, smiling too broadly. The young genius. I disliked him on principle already, but the word young hit a nerve. Men like Ron always said it like a compliment with a blade tucked inside. Ron, I said, didn't expect to see you here. Meeting across the street. Saw the party. Thought I'd stop in. His eyes moved to Brianna. And then I saw the entertainment. Brianna's chin lifted. I felt her beside me, steady as a match flame. Ron laughed like we were all friends. And relax, I'm kidding, mostly. But I did tell Marcus if that voice comes with the front desk, maybe I should steal her for Norwick. Nobody laughed. Except Ron, who apparently thought silence was applause arriving late. Brianna smiled. It was her office smile. Beautiful and dangerous. I'm not available for theft, Mr. Pritchard. Oh, come on. Everybody's available for the right offer. She isn't, I said. Ron looked at me, amused. You answering for her now? There it was. The trap. If I got loud, he could make me look jealous. If I stayed quiet, I let him keep reducing her to a perk in a renewal negotiation. Before I could respond, Brianna stepped slightly ahead of me. No, she said. He's agreeing with me. Something passed through the room. A little shift. Like everyone had just remembered who Brianna was. Ron's smile thinned. I didn't mean anything by it. Then it should be easy not to say it again, she said. Marcus coughed into his drink. Fallon stared at Brianna like she wanted to take notes. I should have been thinking about the contract. Norwick Foods was 30% of our monthly revenue. Losing them would hurt. Badly. Instead, I was watching Brianna stand there in her burgundy blouse with her shoulders back and her eyes calm, and I felt something inside me move from attraction into admiration so fierce it almost scared me. Ron looked at me again. You've got a strong team, Cole. I do. Strong personalities, too. The best ones usually are. His gaze flicked between us, gathering information he didn't deserve. Well, since we're all being professional, I'll be direct. We're reviewing vendors next week. Your new label concepts were good, but I'm not sure your firm has the maturity for our expansion. There was the blade fully out. I felt the room hold its breath. Brianna's hand brushed mine under the edge of the table as she moved beside me. Just once. A quiet reminder. Don't react from the bruise. So I didn't. Fair concern, I said. Let's schedule a formal review Monday. We'll walk you through production timelines, cost control, and the retail rollout. Ron seemed disappointed I hadn't taken the bait. And Brianna, he asked. Will she be there? Brianna answered. If the meeting requires operations, yes. If it requires entertainment, no. A laugh burst from Marcus before he could stop it. Ron's face reddened. I turned to Brianna because the next choice mattered. Not as theater, not as a gesture. As the line we would live with afterward. Do you want to be part of that meeting? I asked her. Her eyes met mine and I saw surprise there. Then something warmer. Yes, she said. I do. Then you will be. Ron gave a stiff nod. Monday then. He left 5 minutes later after pretending he had another engagement and shaking my hand too hard. The bar exhaled. Fallon whispered, I would follow Brianna into battle. Brianna picked up a fry and pointed it at her. Battle requires better shoes. That broke the tension. People laughed. Marcus clapped me on the shoulder and muttered, You did not embarrass us. I'm proud and confused. But I barely heard him, because Brianna had gone quiet. Not upset, exactly. More like the adrenaline had drained out and left her standing in the middle of a room full of eyes. I leaned close enough that only she could hear me. Want to get out of here? She glanced at me. That depends. On? Whether you mean walk me to my car or flee to a monastery. I was thinking fries from somewhere that doesn't host workplace scandals. Her mouth curved. A date-like relocation? Extremely date-like. With boundaries, and possibly ketchup. She considered me for one delicious second. Fine, she said. But if you call it a meeting, I'm leaving you with the check. We didn't sneak out. We said goodnight like adults, with Marcus watching us like he was both terrified and entertained. 2 blocks down, we found a little diner with chrome stools and windows looking out over High Street. We sat in a booth, not across from each other, but at the corner, angled close enough for our knees to bump under the table. That was not how I imagined tonight going, she said. You imagined singing a confession at me and then calmly returning to mozzarella sticks? I imagined singing near a confession. She stole a fry from the basket between us. There's a difference. A legal difference? Emotional misdemeanor at most. I laughed and her knee touched mine again. This time, neither of us moved away. The diner light made her look younger and more tired, in a way that felt intimate. A smear of ketchup appeared near her thumb, and she wiped it with a napkin before I could do something insane like reach for her hand and clean it myself. I hated that, she said quietly. Ron? The way the room looked at me after the song, like I'd handed them permission to decide what kind of woman I was. I stopped smiling. She stared at the fries. I like my job. I'm good at it. And I like you, which apparently makes everything more complicated than a federal grant application. You like me, I said softly. She looked up. That is what you chose to hear? It stood out. Cole. I like you too, Brianna, not in a vague office crush. She's pretty and competent way. I took a breath. I like how you make rooms sharper. I like how you tell the truth and still leave people their dignity when they deserve it. I like that you brought me a turnover tonight because you were mad I didn't take care of myself, but you pretended it was disciplinary. Her eyes glistened. I like you in ways that make Monday complicated, I said. She looked down and whispered, I was afraid I was alone in it. That sentence hit me harder than the song. You weren't. Her hand slid across the vinyl seat between us, palm up. I looked at it, then at her. Then I placed my hand in hers. No cheering coworkers, no client watching, no microphone turning private longing into public sport. Just her thumb moving slowly over mine in a booth that smelled like fries and lemon cleaner. The waitress came by, took one look at our hands and said, You two need pie. Brianna laughed. Do we? Honey, everybody does, but you two especially. So we ordered cherry pie and pretended that wasn't deeply symbolic. When the check came, Brianna reached for it. I caught her wrist lightly. Absolutely not. Her eyes narrowed. We are not starting with financial dominance. We are starting with me inviting you. This is not a date. I held her gaze. Isn't it? The question landed between us, gentle but undeniable. Her lips parted, but before she could answer, my phone buzzed on the table. Marcus again. I almost ignored it. I should have. But the screen lit up where we could both see it. Ron just emailed. He moved the vendor review to 8 a.m. Monday. Subject line: Professional boundaries. Brianna's fingers tightened around mine. Then she looked at me and said, maybe Monday should know exactly what this is. Brianna said it like a dare, but her hand was trembling in mine. The diner around us kept moving, plates clinking, grill hissing, someone laughing too loudly near the counter, but our booth felt suddenly sealed off from the world. What do you want Monday to know? I asked. She looked at our joined hands, then back at my face. That I'm not ashamed of wanting you. My chest went tight. But, she added, because Brianna Mercer did not walk into a fire without checking the exits, I refuse to let Ron Pritchard define it before we do. Agreed. And I refuse to be quietly transferred to some invisible corner of the company like I did something wrong. That won't happen. You say that now. I'll say it Monday. Her eyes searched mine. In front of Marcus? In front of Marcus. And Ron? If he's still brave enough to attend his own meeting. That almost made her smile. The waitress dropped off 2 slices of cherry pie and gave our hands another approving look. Good. Nobody ran. Brianna blinked at her. Was that a possibility? Honey, men run from feelings like raccoons from porch lights. I am sitting right here, I said. The waitress patted my shoulder. Then keep doing that. When she left, Brianna laughed into her napkin, and the sound eased the knot in my ribs. We ate pie slowly, like 2 people trying to delay the part where the world came back. Under the table, her knee rested against mine. Not by accident anymore. Every time she leaned in to make some dry comment about the pie crust or the tragic state of the diner's jukebox, I felt the warmth of her shoulder near my arm and had to remind myself to behave like a man who had been raised indoors. Afterward, I walked her to her car for the second time that night. The parking lot behind the bar had mostly emptied. The karaoke crowd had thinned, and someone inside was now murdering an 80s power ballad with heroic commitment. Brianna unlocked her door, then turned and leaned back against it. So, she said, so. Are we going to do the mature thing and shake hands? I would rather eat Ron's contract. Her smile was quick, nervous, beautiful. I stepped closer, still leaving her space. I want to kiss you. The words came out low and rougher than I expected. Her eyes moved to my mouth. That's very direct of you, Mr. Bennett. I'm trying a new policy. What's it called? Not being an idiot. I support it. I lifted my hand slow enough for her to stop me. She didn't. My fingers brushed the side of her face and her breath left her like she'd been holding it all night. Then she caught my wrist, not to pull me away, to keep me there. Cole, she whispered, if you kiss me, I'm going to want the morning after, to be honest. That's the only kind I'm interested in. She nodded once. So, I kissed her. Not like a man proving a point, not like a boss taking what he shouldn't. I kissed her like someone finally setting down a heavy thing. Her hand slid to the front of my shirt, fingers curling there, and the careful distance we had been respecting all night disappeared by inches. She tasted faintly like cherry pie and laughed softly against my mouth when I bumped my elbow on her side mirror. Smooth, she murmured. I'm better with packaging. Apparently not with cars. I kissed her again because she was smiling, and because I could, and because she kissed me back like the song had only been the beginning. When we finally pulled apart, her forehead rested against mine. There are moments in a man's life when he should say something unforgettable. I said, wow. Brianna closed her eyes. That was almost elegant. I used everything I had on the kiss. Fair. We stood there laughing quietly, holding each other in the soft orange light of the parking lot, and for the first time all night, I wasn't worried about who might see. Monday came too quickly. I wore my navy suit because Brianna once told me the gray one made me look like I was apologizing to a bank. She arrived at 7:20 in charcoal slacks and a cream blouse, hair pinned back, gold hoops in place, a legal pad against her chest like a shield she fully intended to use as a weapon if necessary. Marcus was already in the conference room, pacing. You two good? He asked. Brianna looked at me. I looked at her. We're good, I said. Marcus stopped pacing. Define good. Brianna set her legal pad on the table. We went on a date like relocation. Marcus stared. I hate that I understand what that means. And, I said, we're interested in each other. Marcus made the face of a man watching his insurance premiums rise. Okay, we're not hiding it from you, I continued. We're also not making it anyone's entertainment. Effective today, Brianna reports operationally to you on scheduling, contracts, and office administration. Any compensation decisions involving her will be documented with both of us present. Brianna glanced at me and I saw the flicker of emotion she tried to hide. Marcus exhaled. That is annoyingly responsible. I dabble. He looked at Brianna. Is this what you want? She didn't hesitate. Yes, the structure and him. Marcus pointed at her. That level of clarity is terrifying. It saves time, she said. Ron arrived at 7:58 with 2 executives and the expression of a man hoping to smell weakness. He found none. We walked through the presentation. Timeline, production costs, retail variations, compliance notes. I handled creative strategy. Marcus handled pricing. Brianna handled operations with such calm precision that Ron's own logistics manager started asking her questions directly. Halfway through, Ron leaned back. I'm glad to see everyone kept things professional after Friday's little performance, he said. There it was. The room chilled. Brianna set her pen down. I felt old anger rise, but I remembered her hand brushing mine at the bar. Don't react from the bruise. So I turned to Ron. Friday was after hours, I said evenly. Brianna is an employee whose work speaks for itself, as you've seen this morning. If you have concerns about our deliverables, we'll address them. If your concern is her personal dignity, that's not up for discussion. Ron's jaw shifted. Brianna looked at me then. Not rescued, not hidden behind me, but met. Chosen. There was a difference, and it mattered. Then she opened her folder and slid a page across the table. These are the revised freight windows for your Midwest expansion, she said. If we keep the approval deadline to Thursday, you save roughly 12% on the first print run. If we miss it, you don't. Ron's logistics manager leaned forward. That's accurate. Ron looked from the paper to Brianna. For once, he had no clever remark. By 9:05, Norwick renewed for 6 months, not 12. It wasn't perfect, but it kept our team stable and gave us room to diversify. More importantly, it ended with Ron shaking Brianna's hand and calling her Miss Mercer. After they left, Marcus shut the conference room door and dropped into a chair. I need a pastry, he said, and possibly a priest. Brianna laughed, but her eyes were damp. I stepped closer. You okay? She nodded. I am now. Marcus stood fast. That is my cue to go find the pastry and not witness whatever your faces are doing. When he left, the office was quiet. Morning sun stretched across the conference table, catching the edge of Brianna's legal pad. She turned to me. You wore the navy suit. You said the gray one looked apologetic. I said it once. I listen. Her smile faded into something tender. I know, she said. Then she took my tie in her hand and pulled me just close enough that my heart forgot how to count. We're at work, I whispered. Then don't kiss me. That feels unfair. It's a test of policy. I hate policy, she smiled. Good. I didn't kiss her there. Not in the conference room, not after everything we just fought to keep clean. But I did touch her hand under the edge of the table, just once, and she laced her fingers through mine. At lunch, she put a folded note on my desk before leaving for the bakery downstairs. It said, Dinner Friday, a real one. No microphones, no clients, no felony rhymes. Underneath in smaller writing, she had added, and afterward, if I ask you to take me home, I won't be singing. I read Brianna's note 3 times before I trusted myself to react like a functioning adult. Then I opened my desk drawer, took out one of her blue sticky pads, and wrote back, Friday, real dinner. No microphones, no clients. I reserve the right to rhyme privately. I left it on her keyboard. From my office, I watched her return with a bakery bag and find the note. She read it, bit back a smile, then looked through the glass wall at me. I tried to look professional. She lifted one eyebrow. I failed. That Friday, I took her to a small Italian place on a side street where nobody from work went unless they were dramatically lost. She wore a soft blue dress under a light jacket, and I spent the first 10 minutes trying not to stare like a teenager with a library crush. "You're doing the face," she said over the bread basket. "What face?" "The one where you pretend the menu is fascinating." "The menu is fascinating." "Cole, you've been looking at the dessert list upside down." I turned it around. "Research." She laughed, and just like that, the nerves left the table. We talked for 2 hours. Not about Ron, not about contracts, not even much about work. She told me she used to sing in church with her grandmother, then stopped after college because life got busy and practical and nobody asked anymore. I told her I'd started the company partly because my dad used to say, build something people can hold. And packaging was the closest I knew how to get without learning how to frame a roof. At one point, she reached across the table and touched my wrist. "You built something," she said. "Don't make it smaller because it isn't made of wood." I didn't have a joke ready for that. After dinner, we walked along the river while the city lights trembled on the water. When we reached her car, she leaned against the door the same way she had after karaoke, only this time there was no panic in her eyes. "So," she said. "So. I am not singing." Noted. "But I would like you to take me home." My heart kicked once, hard. I stepped closer. "Brianna." "I mean walk me to my door," she said, smiling. "Maybe kiss me there. Maybe come in for one glass of wine if you promise not to narrate it like a tragic Victorian." I make no promises about my inner monologue. Your outer monologue is the one I worry about. I took her hand. "Then yes, I'll take you home." And I did. I walked her to the door of her apartment, a second-floor place with herbs crowded on the windowsill and a crooked little painting of Lake Erie in the entryway. She poured wine into two mismatched glasses. We sat on her couch with our shoes off, talking softly until the room went quiet in the best possible way. When I kissed her there, it was slower than the parking lot. Less shock, more answer. And before anyone expects me to describe the rest of that night like I'm trying to get banned from every respectable family gathering in Ohio, I'll just say this. The next morning she made toast. I burned one piece trying to help, and she informed me I was management material, not toaster material. That became our rhythm. Not perfect. Real. At work, we kept the boundaries we promised. Marcus became Brianna's direct supervisor for administrative decisions, which he handled with the grace of a man defusing a bomb made entirely of calendar invites. We didn't kiss in conference rooms. We didn't flirt in front of clients. We also didn't pretend we were strangers when the day ended. Every Friday, if we could manage it, we went somewhere that had nothing to do with labels, deadlines, or vendor reviews. A food truck lot, a used bookstore, a minor league baseball game where Brianna heckled the umpire with such polite accuracy that strangers turned around to applaud. The office adjusted faster than I expected. Fallon started calling us the Duet incident until Brianna threatened to assign her printer maintenance for a month. Ron Pritchard remained a client for exactly 6 months. Then we let the contract expire on decent terms and replaced Norwick with 3 smaller accounts that did not require moral disinfectant after meetings. By winter, Brianna had moved from front office secretary to operations manager, not because she was dating me, but because she had been doing half the job already and finally had the title and salary to match. She negotiated the offer herself. Marcus still claims he has emotional scars from that meeting. 6 months after the karaoke night, I came home to my apartment and found Brianna sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, surrounded by takeout containers, fabric swatches, and a spreadsheet. "I have either planned your redesign," she said, "or accidentally started a cult." My apartment has a redesign. Your apartment has 1 chair, 2 lamps that hate each other, and a rug that looks like it lost a bet. I was going for minimalist. You were going for recently assembled. I looked around at the space that had always felt temporary, then at her on the floor, barefoot and bossy and beautiful. "Move in with me," I said. She froze with a dumpling halfway to her mouth. "That was not on the spreadsheet," she said. "I know. You're supposed to review timelines before major operational changes." "I'm improvising." "That has historically led to public singing." "It also led to you." Her expression softened. She set the dumpling down and crawled across the floor on her knees until she was in front of me. "Ask me again," she said. So I did. She said yes. A year after that night at the brass rail, we went back with the whole office to celebrate our best quarter yet. The place looked exactly the same. Sticky tables, terrible lighting, brave fools waiting for microphones. Marcus tried to ban us from karaoke. Brianna signed us up anyway. This time, we chose a song together. Nothing too dramatic. Nothing that would send clients into ethical confusion. Just an old love song everybody knew. When the chorus came, she leaned her shoulder into mine. I looked out at our friends, Marcus with his arms crossed and his wife smiling, Fallon recording despite explicit threats, the team laughing and singing along. Then I looked at Brianna. She wasn't asking me to take her home anymore. She already was home. 2 years later, we got married in a small courtyard behind a brick restaurant downtown. Brianna's grandmother cried through the ceremony and then told me I had a decent face and a better heart than expected. My mother danced with Marcus. Fallon gave a toast that included the words felony rhyme, which Brianna has still not forgiven. At the reception, there was no karaoke machine. That was Brianna's rule. But near the end of the night, when most people were tired and the candles had burned low, she took my hand and pulled me to the little patch of floor beside the band. They played, quietly, just guitar and piano, and she rested her cheek against my shoulder. You know, she whispered. I meant it before I sang it. I smiled into her hair. I know. And you followed me. I did. Good choice. The best one. Now when people ask how we got together, Brianna says she made a strategic vocal decision after fries and one beer. I say my secretary picked a duet and ruined my ability to think straight. Both versions are true, but the real truth is simpler. She sang what both of us were too careful to say, and for once in my life, I was smart enough to follow the music. What would you have done if your secretary picked a duet after work and sang, "Take me home with you," in front of everyone? And have you ever had a public moment accidentally reveal feelings you were trying hard to keep private? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships, where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.